find the range. Range is max minus min, so that's going to be for 27. The mean, we added them all up, 69.25. So far, so good. The variance, so this is the table that I made, and you guys, like I said, some of you didn't want to use the table, that's fine. Better to organize those. So on the test, there'll be a table there for you to fill in. So you've got your data numbers. This is how far they deviate from the mean. These are the deviations squared. So they okay for everybody? And then to find the variance, you add those up and divide by, are we talking about a sample or a population here? Population. So we divided it by 8 because there's 8 in the population. So that's the variance. The standard deviation is just the square root of that. Okay, so I need to see all of that work on your test. So you will fill out the table or create your own table if you don't want to use the table I provide for you. Because you're crazy people, right? We good? That way I can kind of check and see where you went wrong if you went wrong. And guys, this is already posted on Polaris. So you can print a copy and have a nice neat, all right? Okay, the second one is a sample. So you're going to do the same thing. We find the range. I'm hoping everyone's good on that. And the mean. And then your table. So all the data points. The deviations. Square your deviations. Your variance. Big number divided by 6. Still a big number, right? And the standard deviation. So there's a lot of decimals there. A lot of you are asking me, where do you round? Where do you round? Try not to round so much in your work. Round your answer. In your work, I would leave it like to 4 decimal places. And then in the answer, go ahead and round it. Okay? 2 decimal places is fine. Okay? I'll be able to see with your numbers that you did. Okay? All right. Number 3, we are doing the 5-number summary. So I need to see that you rewrote it in order. Okay? So the 5-number summary, you're going to find the median first. There are 26, I think, numbers in this set. So you have 13 on either side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And 13. We have 2 35s. So the average of 35 plus 35 is still 35. So your median is 35. And then you have 13 here. So you're going to have 6 on either side. This is going to be our Q1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's going to be 6 on either side. Okay. So if you're writing your 5-number summary, you should have the min, Q1, the median, which is Q2, Q3, and then your max. Everyone good on those? You need to tell me if there's something you need to have explained. The interquartile range is just Q3 minus Q1. You should have 31. Okay. To determine if there's any outliers, you're going to take the IQR times 1.5. Anything out of Q1 minus that number and Q3 plus that number, anything outside of that band is an outlier. And so you should have something here. Okay, we're just going to write it. The outliers are 107 up to 136. The outliers are 107 up to 136. Okay? 31 times 1.5 is 46.5, is that correct? And then Q1 is 25 minus 46.5, which is going to put me in the negatives. So that doesn't count. And then Q3 is 56 plus 46.5. So 102. So anything above 102.5. So there's a lot of outliers. Okay. Your box and whisker plot looks like this. Some box and whisker plots, this book doesn't show that, but some of them will go up to this 102.5, and that would be your max, and then it'll have dots showing the outliers. This particular book doesn't show it that way. So if you did that, that's okay. I understand why you did that, but just do the whisker out to the max. You should be able to tell how long this whisker is if there's going to be outliers, because these should be kind of the same. All right, how many vehicles fall on or below the third quartile? Well, there's 26 times 75%. Okay? We good? So you're just multiplying the total by whatever percentile they give you. They could say the 80th percentile, you multiply by 0.8. All right? All right. Towing capacities in pounds of all the pickup trucks in a dealership have a bell-shaped distribution with a mean of 11,830 pounds and a standard deviation of 2,370 pounds. Find the standard deviation and determine whether the towing capacity is unusual. So you are finding the z-score. Okay? So the z-score is the weight minus the mean divided by the standard deviation, which is 1.97. This should say find the z-score. Yeah, you're finding the standard deviation. Sorry. You're finding the z-score, which is your standard deviations away from the mean. Okay? All right. Anything less than 2 standard deviations away from the mean is considered okay, not unusual. As soon as it hits 2 or higher, then it's unusual. So you're just finding the z-score, which is your standard deviation from the mean. That's a lot. That's out very, very low. Like a truck should be able to go full more than that. This is a high end. Again, not normal. Unusual. And this guy's normal. Okay? That's about average. So we know that formula. X minus the mean divided by standard deviation. That's your z-score formula. That's your standard deviations away from the mean. You're putting that on the bell curve. Okay? All right, moving on. The mean charge of electricity for sample households is 110 per month with a standard deviation of 1750 per month. Between what two values is 95%? So 95% is plus or minus how many standard deviations? 2. So we are just going to add and subtract 2 standard deviations from that mean. So I have 110 minus 2 standard deviations, puts me at 75. I have 110 plus 2 standard deviations, puts me at 145. So between 75 and 145. Does that make sense? Same idea here. They're giving you the range. They want to know how many standard deviations that is. So how many standard deviations from 87.5 when I'm subtracting 14.5? If I just subtracted 14.5, that puts me at the 73. So that's 1 standard deviation. Okay? This is the 87. If you add 1 standard deviation and subtract 1 standard deviation, you get those numbers they wanted, Bradley. Moving on. Number 7, we have the list of albums. So they wanted you to display the data using a pie chart. You have to show me the relative frequency and the degrees. Okay, so you should continue that little table. Find your relative frequency, multiply by 360 to find your degrees for the pie chart. Okay, so that's part of the work. Then we're going to have you do a circle graph. All right? this total to 122. So 6 divided by 122 is 0.049 multiplied by 360. So take each of those, divide by 122, and then multiply by 360 to get your degree. Okay? And then the pie chart, remember guys, when you're making, I don't care what graph they want you to make, or I want you to make, or whoever, make sure you title it. Make sure you have your labels neatly drawn somehow. You'll put the information in it. If you want to use different colors and make a key, I don't care, but you need to make it nice and neat. So I put the relative frequencies in here as percents. Okay, but the degrees is how much I made the circle. And then the Pareto chart, it's a bar graph. They should not be touching. It's not a histogram where they're touching. It should be separate bars, and it should start at the highest and go down. And again, you should have, this is the frequency, this is the certification, and then you have your separate bars. So make sure you have things labeled. Okay. We should do a pizza party one day, though. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be awesome. We could put it into
With donuts. You can't do mix and match. Yeah, and then we can make this like. Oh. It is brunch, but I think we should pick donuts or pizza. One day donuts. One day pizza. Yeah. Once a month stat party. All right, here we go. The scores for the statistics. Student is given below. We have the weights of 5% for quizzes, homework. Quizzes is 35, project's 35, and the exam is 25. What's the student's mean score? So you're going to do 85 times the weight of 5 plus 80 times the weight of 35. You do not have to write these as percents or decimals. You can leave them as percents, and then when you divide, you're going to get it back as a 90.5%. You can put the percent back there. Okay?
Do you have a preference if you want us to with a decimal or?
I do not care. It doesn't matter to me how you want to do your work. Just know that that's going to be it. Okay? All right. Now this is the big one that takes you a little bit. And this definitely is probably on the second day. Okay? So, I would, if I were you, I would bring colored pencils or highlighters or something. Because it's easier to, in my opinion, to do these frequencies with a list that's all jumbled like this. So, you get your classes, you have high minus low. So we have 55 minus 26. And that's whatever, divide, you get about 6, right? 5 point something. So you're going to round that to 6. So we're starting at 26. Remember, you can't add 6 to get the next guy. You have to add 5. Or just start at 26 and add 6 to get your next low level. Add 26, add 20, or add 6, add 6, add 6. So get your class limits. And then 26 to 30, what I would do is I'd say anything 31 or under, I'm going to mark. So that's that. 31 and under. So that is 5. And then I pick up another color. My next limit is 37. So 37 and under. 37 and under, 37 and under. So that's 4. That way you know you've marked them and you're not looking at them again. It gets too crazy. And if you cross them out completely, then you can't see what the heck you're doing. The next one is 43. And the last 49. And then you can see you have 2 for the left, for the last frequency. So it's just an easier way to organize it visually, and then you're not missing numbers and having to go back and Heck, I've done this 3 times. Okay. So the midpoints, you're adding the low and the high of each class and dividing by 2. So I think you're good there. The boundaries, remember, you're going a half below and a half above. So it's 25.5 to 31.5. And the next one's going to start at 31.5 and go to 37.5. And then 37.5 up to, and you just keep adding a half to that max value in the class. Relative frequency, you're taking each frequency and dividing by the total, which we have 20. So 5 divided by 20 is 0.25. 4 divided by 20 is 0.13. Is that right? 4 divided by 20? It's 1/5 is 0.2, right? I had made a mistake on mine that McKenna helped me find. Okay? What's a good idea for you to do for your relative frequencies? Add them up, make sure they add up to 1 or something close to it, so I didn't do that. Bad. All right, and then your cumulative frequency, you just keep adding, and it should end up being the total. Okay? Everyone can fill that chart in. Take your time, little things are going to mess it up. So, my key is going to be wrong. It's going to bother me, but it's okay. All right, we are using, we're doing a frequency histogram. This is what it should look like. I used class boundaries. You might have used midpoints. It didn't tell you one way or the other, so I don't care. Okay, but it should look the same shape. You should have the same axes labeled like class size and frequency. Tell me what you're using up here, please. Class boundaries or midpoints. Do not use the class limits. Remember class limits, and it's, you have them the right sideways. Okay, class boundaries or midpoints. You okay with that? Okay, the last one. The yoga is a cumulative frequency graph. You have to start before. So this graph has to start at 0. So I use midpoints here because it's just easier with midpoints for this thing. If my first midpoint is 28.5, I have to subtract a class size. I have to start at 0, so I want to start at 22.5. Okay? And then you're going to rise up to the height of that first bar that we had over here. The first bar was a 5, right? So it's a little different of a graph. Okay. 5. The next guy should be up to the 9. The next midpoint, you're going to go up to the 15, 18, and 20. It should end at the top. This goes up, 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 up. All right. Don't get it confused with the polygon where you're graphing and then going back down. This is the cumulative. So it just should rise, rise, rise. All right. Okay. Does that make sense? Any big questions? Anything you want to go over that you don't understand, or you want to try a couple more questions on it?